everyone, GetterTheGreat here. It's time for an album review. Today I'm going to be talking about the latest project, the fourth studio album by Drake. Originally it was titled Views from the Six, but at the last minute he shortened it to just Views. Drake is an actor turned rapper and singer. He hails from Toronto, Canada, and this follows his last studio album, which was called Nothing Was the Same. An album that initially I was mixed on. There were highlight tracks that I liked, but some of the worst tracks he's ever done were on that record. Songs like Worst Behavior, Started from the Bottom, or 305 to My City. In the last 2 or 3 years since that album came out, I would say he's been pretty busy. A couple years ago he had that mixtape, If You're Reading This It's Too Late, that got a wide release in stores. This mixtape saw Drake being very confident, braggadocious, churning out tons of bangers with memorable lines and hard-hitting beats. And last year he had that Future collaboration, which once again saw Drake being more confident. He was putting on that tough guy facade. Even though I wasn't a fan of that record, it did have tons of hits, tons of memorable lines that people were talking about. So taking in all that context, this is why it confuses me that this latest Drake album kind of goes back to his older sound, back to a more restrained approach that kind of likens to his sappier side on a lot of these tracks. Now don't get me wrong, I've always liked the more introspective side of Drake, but this album sees Drake reaching new levels of Drakeness. This time around he's giving us a bloated 80-plus minute album, 20 tracks that see Drake aimlessly reflecting on past girlfriends, talking about fake friends, and essentially just retreading a lot of the lyrical topics that he's talked about in the past. Not to say there aren't highlights on this record, there are certainly tracks that stick out, like with the opening song, Keep the Family Close. This song has a huge orchestral feel to it, kind of similar to what The Weeknd was doing on his last record. It seems like there's a little bit of live instrumentation mixed in here, and Drake keeps it mostly restrained until the last minute or so of the song, and it gets loud at just the right moment. Many of the tracks on this album that I enjoy tend to be on the first half. Like the next song, 9, I'll admit this song doesn't really have an interesting flow or any interesting lyrics to give us, but I find myself really enjoying the production on this track. I like the distant, flourishing digital sounds that are on this song. Then we have the song Hype, which has a minimal, hard-hitting beat, some straightforward bars from Drake, and generally falls into the vibe of that If You're Reading This It's Too Late style Drake. This record also seems to have a lot of slow jams on it, some of them which I am enjoying. Tracks like Redemption, which tend to be a little bit more telling lyrically, and the track You With Me, which features production from Kanye West, and a fantastic bridge where Drake really lets go vocally. There's also some more introspective tracks on this album that are a little bit more strong lyrically, tracks like Weston Road Flow. This track has a really great Mary J. Blige sample, which is layered to a beautiful effect. This track sees Drake diving into his past, with lines talking about how he had to scrape together pennies to buy pizza. I would say this album really falls into a slump right after the track Redemption. On this point in the album, you see the mood change musically. For example, a few songs here have a Caribbean dancehall vibe that I'm really not feeling that much. Songs like With You featuring the PartyNextDoor, which are empty and completely redundant, or the lead single from this album, One Dance, which may be one of the most nondescript, underwritten Drake singles to date. Then there are some tracks that go in a more vapid, ignorant direction, like Still Here or Pop Style, which have some of the most boring, uninteresting flows that Drake has ever rapped. The latter, Pop Style, which was one of the lead singles from this record, has a line saying something along the lines of, I've got so many chains, call me Channing Tatum. What the fuck? The song Grammys is really only noticeable because of the completely boring Future feature on this track. The song Child's Play is memorable, but for all the wrong reasons. This song has lines about Drake fighting with his girlfriend at the Cheesecake Factory. He talks about how he's going to drop his girlfriend back off in the hood if she doesn't start acting right. And there's a line in this song where he literally says he's going to hide his girlfriend's keys if she doesn't do what he wants her to. Altogether, I would say that this was a really underwhelming album. I expected that Drake would take his sound and move it into a more bold direction, especially considering the last few projects that he's put out. But this album is really just a reiteration of a lot of old ideas that he's already done. This album is just filled with bad lines, lifeless slow jams, and was overall just way too long. At 80 plus minutes, this album could have easily been cut down to 11 or 12 tracks, and it really wouldn't have even hurt the overall product. It's not even that a lot of the songs here were terrible in particular, it's just that they tended to be really forgettable. Drake just had a lack of ideas, and he spread it really thin over 19 tracks. It's really disappointing because I thought that the first few tracks on this album were promising, but it completely falls off a cliff in the middle. So, on this Drake album, feeling a 4 out of 10. Did you like this album? Why or why not? Was this the Drake album that you were wanting? Let me know in the comments below. Also, don't forget to like my video and subscribe to my channel. Till next time.